Welcome back, our dear podcasters. We are back with another episode of Smaily podcast. And today we have here Tobias Eickelpasch, who is definitely the most known email marketer in Germany, but maybe not just in Germany. And if you have ever heard the term rock your email, then probably you have also heard about him because he is behind it. And today we will talk about the really interesting topic, which is AI. But before we dig into this really interesting topic, then Tobias, please be kind and tell us a bit more about yourself.
How did I get here? Haha. Thank you for the kind introduction. Very glad to be here. Yeah, as you said, Tobias is my name. I got into email marketing in 2008, which I don't know when you're listening to this podcast, but it is a couple of years in the past. And I've been in this space ever since. I kind of can't get out, still love it. Started with email, but also with marketing automation right away. And ever since then, I've been in different roles, doing email marketing myself, doing it from a consulting point of view, working as a project manager for an email marketing service provider, which I still do today, but also launching my own business, Rock Your Email. That's kind of the brand I built, and where I always try to find opportunities to share my experience, my knowledge, and hopefully make more people even more enthusiastic about email.
So the first question that we usually ask from all of our visitors is like, why do you love email? What's so special about this little thing as an email that you actually want to do so much with it?
Yes, good question. I've been asked this question before, and here are my not so standard answers because I think it is kind of fun. Why do I bet on email? The first thing I usually do when I get asked this, I always ask people back, when was the first email sent on this planet? And it's always fun because when you let people guess, they try to think back, when was the internet thing, when did that start, and so on. But most people don't dare to say the actual year, or they don't go close to it because it is 1971.
I would have
So
guessed 60s, by the way.
see,
But
yeah, you have competence and experience, but most people don't dare to go back this far. So it's what this tells us, and why I love email so much. It's a very established technology. It's kind of like the German Autobahn, the highways. They are built into the internet. They are part of the internet. They are a very reliable technological platform. They are deeply embedded. Emails are open source. The joke I like to make is that no Elon Musk will ever be able to buy email or do whatever with it. So you can own this channel, which makes it very reliable. You still have to do your homework. There's all kinds of homework you need to do so that it works. But if you build a list that has a value to yourself, to the company, and you can move from one email service providers to the other, there is a higher level of independence. So all of these factors make these are the reasons why I bet on email, because I think it's been there for a long time. It's still going to be there for a long time. It's a universal communication channel.
yeah, yes, and probably you can do actually kind of interesting things with emails. Maybe things that people don't even come up to because they don't know that you can do those things in emails. And definitely one of those things is using AI in emails.
Haha, that was a very nice introduction, how we slid into this topic. But yes, of course, if you look back a few years ago, there was nowhere could you find the term AI, and now it's everywhere, and it's just like a force of nature. And of course, you have to think about how will and does AI impact email already, and that's what I've been looking into, what I've been working on, also working with the developer team, trying to not push the boundaries, but explore new possibilities, which is what we've been doing the last, let's say, half year. And that's why I like to share what we've been doing. I don't like to position myself as an AI expert because I think it's like a new scientific discipline almost, where no one is really yet an expert, because an expert is usually someone who made pretty much every mistake you can make in a certain field, and AI feels it's just the beginning. But I've done some experiments. I've been working on some stuff and sharing this knowledge, and that's why we got together today.
True. So actually, my first question about AI is, what is an AI? How can you define an AI? Like, what makes it so special, and what it is
Mm.
actually? Like, is it like some computer which is making emails, or what does this
Mm.
AI do?
Yeah, that's uh, see, now we're gonna find out how much of an expert I am.
Yes.
However, but when whenever I read about it, I always the first thing I always tell myself is that what we call artificial intelligence is not as intelligent as it sounds, because behind AI, what we know now, are models, LLMs called large language models, and those models, they analyzed in those models, they analyzed patterns and did some math and calculation and looked at probabilities. You know, what follows onto another thing. Or in texting, if there was one word, which other word followed afterwards, and that's how it does some magic math, and how it determines that how probable is it if you talk about topic A about this word, which other one should follow. So it's someone called it like more like an not adaptive. It's like it's something that just replicates some patterns. And when you talk about that AI generates something, it only just calculates a probability and spits out something that is most likely similar to what already exists. So it's not producing something new per se. What I find interesting about AI is that it's able to give people as a tool as leverage, that you're able to produce things at a higher, faster pace with a quality in the end that is quite convincing. Where you, I mean, texting is not the best example, I think, because texting is leverage is not as big. But if you talk about images or videos and what those models and those systems are able to produce within such short period of time, just now, recently, this will soon be old news again, but I just saw how recently, if you want to create an image and you type in the prompt, the image is created in real time. It was one of the models that was now able to do this in real time. So you don't even have to write a text, click a button, wait 20 seconds until the image generates. It's in the moment you write it, it happens and it forms an image. And that to me is the leverage. It's really, this is insane if you think about what pain it is. And now coming back to the example in video and in images, how much you had to and have to invest to create a high quality outcome. And that kind of like seems to disappear right now, which is why it's making everyone a little nervous about their jobs and what they do. And maybe we'll talk about this in a moment. But um, in short, it's a tool. It has models, underlying models that are pretty much black and white probability, and it's not as intelligent as it seems, but it creates crazy outcomes.
I think you are the first AI expert to say that it is not as intelligent as it seems. Usually they say that you can do magic with it, but
It's,
you kind of
I
bring
think it's
people
going to
back
get
to
there.
earth.
If you ask me, it's like if you, I already to give you an idea. I mean, I presented AI in the context of email marketing. The first time was late summer 2022, which is only like a year and something ago. That's when I had some, let's say, good examples where I created emails and subject lines, the typical things, where I felt, wow, okay, this is now a new level. Before that, it was experimental and never went so well. They've always been, for example, service providers like Phrasee is the one that comes to my mind that produce subject lines. So short text in a short with a predefined set, and within this short set of characters and letters and so on, it already created great outcome, but not on a larger scale. And if I look at how much this gains speed, over the last year and a half alone, that's really very accelerated this exponential feeling that we can't grasp. And that's why whatever we talk about now, I think is it's going to be fun to listen to, and sounds ancient probably in 1 or 2 years, when we have the feeling that it has become intelligent in whatever way you define it.
That is true. Can you give me some examples of how you have used AI in email marketing? What have you done with it? How
Mhm.
can you exploit it? How can you use it?
Yeah. So I'll give you one example that I've been using successfully recently. I already explained how at first I tried subject lines and some text here and there and so on and so forth. But what helped me, let's say, gain greater success and gave me a better feeling of working with AI and email marketing was when I started working with what I would call personalities or personality. There's different terms and different AI systems that are used, but it's basically a directive or a definition that you provide to the AI, to the system, to the model, and say, hey, you are this and that person. And here is who you are. And I put some time and effort into defining personalities. And one example I can give you, I'm supporting a company in the banking industry, helping them with their email marketing, and I help them write their emails and their newsletters in particular. And in the past, we always worked the same way. We had a meeting and we discussed which topics are supposed to go in. They had a new podcast or blog or something, and maybe a portrait of someone that works there. And then this had to be transformed into a nice newsletter. And this has always been really copywriting skills and content, like repurposing, recycling, upcycling, however you want to name it. And I did this for a while already. And then I thought, hey, can AI help with this? But whatever I did before I used personalities was too generic. It didn't have the tone, the tonality. It didn't have the style, the vocabulary that it needed. So by defining a personality, by covering all those topics, who are you? What's your position? What business unit do you work in? What are your company's missions and values? What are key terms that you use in your mission, vision, and so on and so forth? What is your character? How do you express yourself? It's like a long prompt. By defining this, I instructed AI to act in this way. And then afterwards, when I had this done, whenever I fed the system a topic, oh, here's a new podcast episode, and it covers these and these topics, use transcript or whatsoever. Let's turn this into good newsletter content. It used this filter. And the one advantage that I felt for myself as an editor and in copywriting was that it took my filters out. We all you have a filter. You look through your glasses. I do through mine. And in the first newsletters that I did for them, I always got a feedback. And there's one feedback that stood out to me because they said, hey, yeah, this was a good newsletter, but the first draft, it was a bit too Disney. So a little bit on the fancier side, a little bit playful, and but it wasn't them. It didn't resonate with their brand and their tonality and their style. This was kind of, to me, the moment, okay, I need to get my Disney out of there. I have to get myself out of there. I have to put myself in their shoes. And that's what the personality did to me, because that's been my biggest my criticism of using AI. It's too generic. It's always the same stuff or similar stuff. And it's not unique. And that's how it helped me. And that's how I'm using it right now on the practical side. And I can tell you that the newsletters I draft and that I propose to this company, they get approved several times without any changes. So it must have nailed something, and that's something interesting because basically, if you can replicate a certain personality, something we humans might be afraid of, because we think we're all unique and we can never be replaced or something. We won't be replaced. Our tasks change, but to be able to have a sparring partner or someone that thinks the way that company wants to communicate is very helpful.
Of course. So maybe that's a tricky question now, but how does AI know what the person or persona likes? How does it gather the information about the persona?
That's a very good point. This is something that is maybe connected to something that I also wrote down in preparation for today's podcast. Because to me, a persona, some call it ICP, ideal customer profile, some work with avatars. But no matter what you call it, to me, working with a persona, I'm going to stick with persona because it's kind of like my terminology. To me, it represents that you as a sender, or I as a sender, I reflected on who am I sending emails to, and that I'm putting this effort into this to not send generic crap, but to send relevant information to the person, whatever the recipient interests. And to me, this is the basis. Like, if you are not clear about this, you will not be writing. You can't write for everyone. If you write for everyone, it's generic. So that's the tricky part. And to me, personas resemble this, that you're willing to put this in there. And in the past months, it's one of the examples I can give you in a moment, we thought about how can you go further than the personality that I just mentioned, but how can you also additionally or even alternatively include and work with personas in email marketing in the AI context? Because those concepts, and we can all be honest here, and I'm honest too, those great persona concepts, if they're done well, it's not just a simple page of paper that summarizes it all. That would be way too little information. It should be pages and pages of knowledge, and it should be in your brain, and you should use it and implement it. But let's be honest, most of the time, those persona concepts, they're just in some kind of a drawer, disappearing, catching dust, or in a digital drawer, and they're not used. They're not put to use, really. I don't know any email marketing system, and I've been working on this for a while. I don't know any of them that allow you to upload a persona. I don't know. You do. Maybe we'll see that very soon. But if you have those persona concepts, why can't we use those exactly in the heart of where you need it, which in this case should be an email marketing system? And then can you build technologically a bridge? Can you do something similar, what I described before with the personality? Can you do this and let the email marketing system do better work for you? It's kind of one of the triggers that we worked on when we did some experiments in the last months.
That sounds really interesting, and it seems like it's something out of the future that I can tell to my email marketing system that, hey, today I want to write to people who have bought the product from me. Please step into their shoes and tell me what they want to hear.
Yes. Okay. Shall we dig right in there? Because that's exactly
Yes.
where we started this. Actually, we started on a different location. We started on the micro content level, but I'm going to work the other way around now. Let's imagine, let's play with this thought. Let's call it an AI content profile. That's the term we just came up with. It's not yet set that it's going to be that, but AI content profile. And if you imagine those pages and pages of information, and we know AI can now handle a book full of stuff. So you can write a book about your persona, and you can upload this, and the system should be able to incorporate this information. So what if you were able to upload this, and there's templates, email templates, right, in a system? So our next thought then was, how about when you create a template, you call the template exactly like the persona. And if you use that template, you don't just from a technical point of view use the template to create the email. No, this template has the persona built in. So the structure, the color palette, the design adapts or is made to fit the persona. Anything that's later generated for this with this template will always go through this meta filter, let's call it that, this persona filter. And so whatever I let the system generate for this email always goes through this. And we all know, we always talk about personalization in email marketing, but it's hard to implement if it's a lot of work and we have limited resources. But what if the system can help us? And if this template is for, let's say, I'm going to go by the limbic types. I don't know if you know them. There's a blue, yellow, green, and yellow type. And let's go with the blue one. If you know you have a factual person that loves numbers and data and so on and so forth, and I have a template that's made for the person, and it has the color palette, it has the look and feel. And whatever emails I generate with this, it's going to match this, and it's going to be factual and down to the numbers. And then I have another template for another persona. It's the red person, the dominant person, the leader that wants to always walk ahead of everybody. And it's going to use completely different vocabulary because the the persona profile tells the template to do so. And all of a sudden, the persona causes or is in effect at this point or at the place where it actually should have an effect, right in the process of content production. And then all of a sudden, you, as an editor, become the conductor. It's one of the observations we made, that how does it change our role in email marketing? And from our point of view, you turn into a content designer, you turn into a conductor. You need to operate the systems. You have to give the right triggers. You have more tools available, and you have to make them operate at the right time. They have to be in harmony, in the same rhythm. And I need this element here and an image there. And that's kind of how this impacts and changes your role as a whole also. But I'm jumping a little bit here. But let's just say persona on the top level and the templates are not just technical constructions, but they have a person inside.
But do you actually use AI not just for putting together texts, but you actually let the AI decide the color palette and maybe the length of the text and where should the CTI buttons be?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, this is interesting because that's always crazy puzzle work, isn't it?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
annoying. And that's exactly where we also we stopped ourselves. And I've been doing this. I'm still doing this. So here's one of the hypotheses or statements that I made in a presentation that I gave on this topic before. And I said, the way we use AI right now, it feels like we're in silos. We're just like Neanderthals. I'm going to be a little bit discriminating here. Sorry, Neanderthals, but it's a little primitive. Because what the possibilities AI offers always happen in one little sphere. Let's say I need a subject line on renewable energy. Give me 10 subject lines. And I type it into the system. And then, whoa, I get 10 subject lines super fast. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. And I can work with this. So I'm in this AI generation mode, right? And then I pick one, I copy it, and I go back to the email marketing system. I paste it in there. I save the email. And I look at the preview. And then I go like, oh, shoot, it's too long. Meh. I have to go back to the other system. Please write shorter. I like this one. Please write it shorter and give me 5 variations. And then I like, oh yeah, here they are. And then I copy and I paste to the other system. And that's what I mean by silos. This is the world we're facing right now. I think it's going to be dramatically different in 2 to 5 years. Completely different way of workflows. But that's a little dumb, isn't it? I mean, like if I think of mankind's evolution in marketing, and this is where we got, is this really top notch? Like copy paste work. There's still some silos and things are still disconnected. And I'll take images. So I can let the system generate images, but I then have to tell the system that I need images. You have to give the style. I would do this also, of course, outside the email marketing system still, right? So I have to do it in another system that's really able to create great images. And I still have to, I have to also define some kind of persona and structure and style. And then I also have to define the dimensions, right? Because the image has to have a certain dimension. It shouldn't be too big and small, web optimized, da da da. So all this meta information I have to provide to this system, and then I get an outcome. I download it, save it, go to their system, upload it, build it in there. Like, this is what I mean.
And then you
Silos.
discover that you need more grayscale picture, not the colorful one, and then go back and say, "Hey, please redo it."
Exactly. And this happens in different systems at the moment. It's all and what do you call it? Particularisiert. I don't know the term exactly, but it's all disconnected. And that's the next leverage that we see when we worked on this. And I'll explain later how we can like tear down those walls, maybe, at least the way we saw it. And then take the color palette and so on and so forth. Those are some technical things that you can't even tell an AI text generation or image generation system. That should be in the email marketing system, right? So right now, this is all happening, and it's in different positions. So we thought, can't this go better? And then we started playing around with this. And now one important thing that you have to know when we experimented, the templates that I mentioned earlier, the templates that have the persona model behind it, in that system, they have a CMS engine. So it's like a content management system. It's not the typical drag and drop editor to create emails where you just basically create an HTML code. It is like kind of like WordPress, yeah. Like, so if you look into the system, you have an input field for a headline, an input field for a short text, an input field for a call to action button text, and then you need an input field for the URL for the call to action button. So you don't program in there. So from an editor point of view, that's easier to handle. You don't have to go into the source code. That's great. But the CMS engine has one huge advantage. We realize now, even more than we did before. You can generate any content outside the system, and through an interface, the API, you can import any content, and you can tell the system, okay, this now is a text for a subject line. This is a text for a headline. This is a text for short text. And you can tell the system in which exact field in this template is this text or this image whatsoever going to go. Because you have those CMS data fields that you can directly address. You can directly send information there. It's very precise. And the way you build the template, then you have those fields. And then we went full circle. And then we thought, okay, now if this is possible and there's API and you can connect an email marketing system via an API to an AI model, and we send a prompt from within the system, hey, use this template with its persona information, send it over to, create an email on renewable energy. And when
like
you
a
send
whole
back
email, not just
the
one
whole
part of
email,
text.
exactly,
Yes.
that's the point, the whole email. And the whole email consists of all those elements. It has a banner image, it has an editorial text with a salutation, where it maybe summarizes what it's going to talk about below. It has maybe 3 articles, and each article has a headline and a text and an image and maybe a button that leads to somewhere. So you give the prompt, you tell it to AI. AI just does its work and then transfers this information back with all its meta information. Take the image that's generated over there with this prompt. You define once, in which size do I need this image? And then the system, the AI generates the image, will respect the dimensions that you predefined, send back an image file that has exactly those dimensions, so it exactly fits in there, and then it knows in which field to put it. And then it assembles all those pieces and creates the entire email.
So actually it puts also together all like the system, like, I mean, how many columns do you have text? Do you have like picture next to text, or you have picture above and text below? It knows everything already.
Yes. The CMS has one great advantage. It separates content from design. So if you look at 80% of, I'm going to not generalize, but most email newsletters, they often consist of certain elements that always repeat themselves. And that's typically, it's an article. Let's say if you have an article, typically you have an image, a headline, text, and a button. Because, in an email, you can't sell a product. You can only sell a click. So you got to keep it compact. And whether it's like now first the image above, then the text below, and then the call to action button, or the image is on the left, the text is on the right, or if you have a 2-column article, it's always the same fields. So however you move the design around is independent, can be considered, has to be separated from the actual content that you have the system outside to generate and send it back inside to the ESB. And then you are free to rearrange this. And in this system, you can just click a button, say, no, I want the image on the right. And if you switch it to the right, all other elements group themselves around it in the different way. But you see how design and content in a CMS-based system, it's much more fluid. And it's just a drop-down button to change it. You don't have to go into the source code. But the main key factor here that meant the greatest leverage is that whatever is generated goes back, and the content knows its purpose, where it's supposed to appear. So the email builds itself, and then we realize something else on top of this, also related to the CMS engine. I think the term is self-referential. I'm not exactly sure, but if you have a system like this and you build emails like this, those fields, they know of each other. So if I tell the system to write me an email about renewable energy with 3 subtopics, if it was a dumb email, then there might be a risk that AI creates 3 topics, sends them back, and they appear, but all 3 are the same. And one should be solar power, one should be wind power, one, I don't know, hydropower. If you have a system that understands which information is going to be in which element, then they can also kind of communicate with each other. And then you can say, okay, I need 3 different topics, and they should somehow refer to each other, but we can't have duplicate content. That would be silly. That wouldn't help. And ideally, the editorial on top mentions what's coming below. Again, a simple HTML coded email, within that, you can't do this. It's going to be just straightforward from top to bottom. But in a CMS space where you know that this 3rd article is about this, and it doesn't have good content compared to number 2, number 1. And all of a sudden this starts blowing up in your mind, because you realize that those silos and those things that you need to do in separate systems, copy, paste, save, upload, download, blah, blah, blah. We were able, with one prompt, to send this out and to get a complete email back with all its elements in it. And it
was the design.
Exactly. The design, exactly. We're still going to mention the color palette in a second. But if you have the template structure, you give it a structure and a layout. That's something you can still predefine. We weren't at the point where we were able to say super fluid and you built a design to. It's maybe a bit too fancy, maybe in 10 years. But for example, we also said, hey, when you build the email, check your persona's favorite color and send back color codes in the hashtag form, whatever, or the hex form, and put this in the CMS template, put this in the right field where it's supposed to be, and the email appeared in the desired or suggested color theme also.
Which makes it so much easier for people who don't know color theory or don't have the eye for design, but at least they have the colors.
Yeah. And you define it once. Just like corporate design, corporate identity exists for a reason. And let's call it corporate persona, maybe. You define one, and ideally you are able to, you create messages meant for these personas and not, let's say, filtered through staff, or like my example from earlier, where I put too much of myself into the email. And if you can reduce possible errors or the possibilities that someone cannot accidentally change the color scheme because it's not possible, and you don't have to worry about it. As an editor, I would just be happy that any email generated, the colors that appear there are predefined, and it's not going to become a rainbow email, right? So
Mhm.
it really limits it at the right spot where you're less likely to make mistakes, and it's more likely that the outcome meets the recipient's dreams.
And it also makes it so much easier, for example, if a new person joins the company as an email marketer and it doesn't maybe know all the facts yet, then actually AI does. And if somebody else starts to write you the emails, actually it will be like this smooth transition without anybody noticing that there's a
Yes.
different person behind it.
Yeah, exactly. So you can generate, like, usually in an email marketing system, you already had some predefined standards, templates,
Hmm.
for example.
Yes.
But now you take it to another level, and it still requires the conductors, the content designers. I also sometimes call them the architects. Someone also has to build all of this. Everything we discussed has to be built. So the momentum of work shifts, or the area of work shifts, but the outcome, I think, can greatly benefit from this. You can finally, from a human point of view, I would love to get away from being the puzzle builder. Like whenever there's a new newsletter that has to be built, it's basically like someone comes into my office and tosses a big game of puzzle pieces on my desk and says, "Okay, put it together," right?
But
And
put it together perfectly.
exactly, there's some work that I still want to do, like the actual image, what's supposed to appear, and but I don't want to be the one that searches for every piece of the puzzle and does this one fit here, and does this, and is this aligned, or is this going to be out of the way? So that's something that where leverage is big, and where I think that the human part in this shifts into the area of architecture, architect, a conductor of systems that somehow have to work together, or being a content designer, which is not just designing in the sense of layout and so on, but like orchestrating all of this. That's kind of like the
Yeah,
direction. That's
that's
also the feeling I would love to create if I were somehow able to, for anyone in the email space, to feel empowered to be a conductor and not marginalized, or like, okay, AI can do this, you're out of your job.
exactly, because there are so many skills required to make an email. You need to be a good copywriter. You need to have a good eye. You need to be able to write a good code if you want to have something really special in the template. And no one person can do it, all of it perfectly. And usually there are many people's thoughts in one email, which actually can make it overwhelming. It can look weird eventually. But if there is one conductor and one AI, then they do make it work, because it's just one big piece of thing that actually works together.
Yeah. And again, there were times before there were chainsaws where people could only cut down trees with an axe, and they needed longer. There was a time before calculators existed and were in school, and people needed longer for certain calculations. And we're now looking at a tool that is more powerful than a calculator and an axe, or a chainsaw. It is more powerful, and again, it's about how do you use the calculator, how do you use the chainsaw, and do you use it correctly? If you grab the chainsaw and you hit the tree like you did with the axe, it's not going to work because you're not using the tool right. But if you know how to turn it on, and then this leverage kicks in again, because we all know that if I'm always still happy in Germany if I come across a company that has dedicated email marketing staff, I'm already, yes. I mean, I'm not talking about big companies. I recently did a workshop with a company that has thousands of employees, and they have a large email marketing team. But if I talk about mid-sized companies, even smaller ones, that's rare. And whoever has this hat on in email marketing always has to do all kinds of stuff, programming and configuring and texting and image, and then now AI and legal stuff and so many different things. So it's overwhelming, right? So maybe this in the future can be leveraged, where all of a sudden this one person can do more because he gets a cool chainsaw that is able to cut down 10 trees at the same time. And that's what happened next when we worked on all of this, and we tested this first with a Python script, and it was all technical. Even I couldn't follow this anymore. And now we have it in a dev surrounding where where it's a bit more human. All of a sudden, that's when we realized, okay, now we can really take it up several levels. Because earlier we talked about one template for one persona. Well, why not then create, if we have 5 personas in our company, then we can create 5 templates, and we know they all are representing one persona each. And then we thought, okay, then we can take it up another level, right? I mean, who does A/B tests seriously? It's work. So in some companies it's super important, cool, but in most companies, and the majority of my clients are in B2B, most people there don't do A/B tests because you have to duplicate the email and then you have to coordinate all this. But if you have a template of a persona and you tell the template, hey, you know what? Create an email. Oh no, wait, create 4 emails on renewable energy. I need 4 suggestions. And the systems, like, they kind of shrug and say, okay, here you go. And all of a sudden you look at 4 different newsletters that are all persona adapted, and they all are in the right corporate design. And you look at this as like a great number of suggestions you can work with, and you pick this and this, and all of a sudden there's leverage. You can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G tests because you're able to produce so many emails in such a short period of time. And then you do it with persona A, B, C, and all of a sudden you're not doing A, B, C tests, you're doing A, B, C, D tests for 4 different persona. And what more can you gain from this? So it's a whole different level. And we haven't even talked about automation, or, like, let's say a flow, or some call it customer journey, automation, drip campaigns. Build me a story for this persona with 10 emails. Tell this and this story about this and this product. I need 10 emails. Here are the typical customer journey phase: awareness, consideration, decision, closing. And in each phase, please consider these lead questions, because at the beginning, people have different questions than further on, and answer these questions in all those emails. Build on each other, make sure there's a whole storyline in between, and click. What's going to happen?
Oh, yeah, it's going to take a lot of work out away from email marketers who have to do it by hand.
Yeah, but if I can exactly, but if I can look at, I've seen this so often in many workshops that I held with companies that try to build their first welcome series with email marketing, and to see them how difficult it sometimes can be to wrap your head around this, to just sort content in a certain manner so that it makes sense, that it builds on each other. Which topics do you cover in the first email, the second email? What is recommended? Although, there's best practices, there's use cases, there's great welcome series that work well. Those are currently somewhere in the universe, but if you turn these into prompts, so right now in email marketing systems, there's all those templates for a welcome series. You click on it, and it builds you the technical structure of a welcome series, where you see, okay, someone signs up here, wait a day, send this email, wait 2 days, send another email, and so on and so forth. So this is just the plain technical structure. That's what's already here. But what if the system could also already provide emails and content that builds on the persona, that respects the customer journey or the customer lifecycle, that answers questions and makes suggestions that you can work with? And then you, as a human, you give it the touch, you give it what the conductor does, you give it the personality, and build something out of this. I think that's very interesting leverage that I would like to see in motion.
Exactly. And personally, I would like to even see one step further. If there's an AI which starts suggesting how to make customer journeys, then it should be able to learn from itself as well, because it should like make tests and see which is working better
Yes.
and know how to improve itself.
Okay, now you already went to one of the final chapters that I also held in my presentation, because that's the next step, right? So if I do an A, B, C, D, E, F, G test, for example, just kidding, but let's start with A, B, C, D or something. The data that I gain from this, I mean, I shouldn't just let it sit there. I should use this. And we can imagine that it can be used. Let's say I see that the opening rates of the email that has the dark blue color palette, highest openings, highest clicks, views, unsubscribes, whatsoever. Get the openings there to integrate, but you know what I mean. So if I see this and I feed this back into the system, and I tell the system, here, use this color palette only, or in the next test we want to dig deeper into this, you can, and then you can. This whole cycle starts feeding itself, and that's ideally what happens up to the point. Let's become visionary, but we all dream of those hyper personalized emails. But the last point, that's something that our system can do too, that the email, you built an email, you built the structure, but you have design and content separated. But when it's rendering, right before the transmission, that's when the system looks into the person's profile, your profile, and sees, you got 10, 100 emails. And you opened all the ones with the blue color and with this and this, whatever characteristics, whatever, again, not intelligence, it's a model again. So we look at probability, but whichever one did you open, click, or interact with most likely? And so you build the content like the email itself, but when it renders, in the moment when it's supposed to go out, it looks at your data and it builds it individually, like really fully customized. It's kind of like every email marketer's dream come true, but there's really something to this, because I don't want to create emails for other people. I want the emails to be created for them in the ideal world. And it's kind of this whole AI theme for the first time. This is what I've been going through in the last months. It made me feel like this is within reach, because certain work can be done by a machine, just like the calculator helps us solve trickier math questions faster. And I hope that this is how AI is put to the good, dear ladies and gentlemen who are listening, to the good of email marketing. Because you can do crap stuff with this as well. You can leverage on different levels. But I hope that it brings better emails into everyone's inboxes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would hope as well, and also take away some of the burden that I, as an email marketer, have just to trying to figure out what my customers like and what they don't like. But if there is a system behind it which can make so much more and quicker calculations that I can, then obviously it is so much more efficient.
Yeah, and one more thing to add to this, because you hear me talk about this, and I am a little enthusiastic. Okay, not a little. I am enthusiastic about it, but I also don't want to sound naive. It's always a little double standards to say, okay, we don't want to, I don't want to hype this endlessly, without thinking of the backside of this. Like one of the bad sides, and we just started talking about it. Why does email marketing have such a bad reputation? Because email marketing has always been too cheap. From my point of view, it's too cheap to send emails. It's a mass medium, and it costs nothing to send it to millions of people. And that's what many companies have been doing, taking advantage of this. And AI could also exponentially multiply this. So it's tricky to develop something like this, knowing that it might also backfire big times in whatever way. It shouldn't be in anyone's sender's interest to create something that is not of interest to the recipient, because then you in German we say you shoot yourself in the knee. But it shouldn't be crap. It shouldn't be spam. It shouldn't be misleading. And I think that AI can really be helpful in this. It's kind of like, because many people are critical of AI, but there were demonstrations against calculators when they were introduced to schools. And I just recently heard again that one country stopped certain exams because they realized they're useless because of AI. And some other countries are saying we're going to take out computers and hardware, software, and so on and so forth. And I believe that it's important to be conscious about it, but I think it's the wrong approach to just say it's bad and we shouldn't use it at all. I think the calculators allowed schools to ask trickier questions and bring up the bar, because for certain things you don't need as much time anymore. And I saw one interview with a teacher who had a cool suggestion. They discussed with teachers, how should teachers deal with the fact that they sent their kids home with homework, and the teachers know that the kids are sitting in front of AI and answering and writing an essay, and they're going to give it some touch. And should we now not allow it? And that teacher said, no. You have. She suggested something that I found cool, and maybe this transfers to email as well. She said, no, let them work with it. They have to work with the chainsaw and with AI. Let them bring back their work, but then have them sit down and analyze and understand what they produced and validate and verify. Learn to handle what was generated there before and give them a feel for it. Why is this wording crappy? Why is this incorrect? Why is this a hallucination? And so that they really understand that they have a tool, yes, but they need to learn how to operate it correctly. And that's also my hope for AI in email marketing, that it becomes a leverage, but that we're conscious about it and not just look at it as let's fire away and send out more crap.
Exactly, and that actually brings me to the next question, which is really, really tied together with the previous topic, is like, what are the skills that the future email marketers need when they start using AI? Because one of them, as you said, is the content analysis. They need to know that what AI wrote is actually true. But what are the other skills that are needed?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mentioned a couple of titles that are going through my mind these days, and it's the content designer, the content architect, and the conductor. And to me, it is really about orchestrating AI in a new way that we haven't been able to before. And I think that while I said that personalities can be replicated or duplicated, I still believe that what you send out in the end, in order for it to be authentic and have a really unique style, you need to give it your personal touch or the company's personal touch. It can't be completely without human interaction. I'm using another tool that has an interesting approach. It's a tool to create LinkedIn posts, and it's only LinkedIn posts. And they also thought, okay, how can we use it as a tool and not just to produce LinkedIn posts? And what they did, and this is how you do it. So you have a topic. So you want to talk about email marketing, and you give the system a topic, and then it spits out 20, 30 of the most prominent questions that people have about email marketing. So you have a list, and then you click on one, and then you say, okay, this is the one that you want to turn into a post. And in that post, you can put a couple of notes, but just like rough notes and bullet points. And then you have a recording button. And then the next thing you do is you click a recording button and you speak about that question and answer the question. And then the system, as you can imagine, it generates a transcript, and with certain prompts that also take into account my personality. I fed this into the system on a different in a different spot. It uses what I just said. The way I speak is unique. The way you speak is unique. And then it takes my style and my wording, the way I answer this question, and turns it into a written LinkedIn post.
It's cool. Can you also share the post's name?
Yes, I can. I totally can. And then all of a sudden it has this personality, this true personality. And I got to know the two developers behind it. And the one thing they told me that is the trickiest part of the job is to tell AI what not to do. Because AI goes crazy all the time. When you feed something in there, it spits out more. It comes up with wrong things and hallucinations. We've all seen this. So limiting AI and to not mess with my personality that I just spoke into the system, that makes it really unique. And then it gets a different touch. And I'm still trying to connect the dots between what I just told you and email marketing and how this can be implemented. But to me, this is exactly where the human as the interface, as the conductor and the one that orchestrates, that gives it the way that someone conducts an orchestra gives it a certain sound, and that's exactly how you can differentiate your content from others. And again, they found a way to use AI, but not let AI take over. Use it as leverage and as a tool, and that I thought was cool. And I'll happily give you the name, and then you can put it in the show notes.
Yes, perfect.
Yes.
So I have one more question, which is also maybe something, I don't know how many people have asked about it, but this is definitely something that I have been thinking about. And the question is that if I'm writing an email using AI, should I actually tell the customers as well that the content was not created by me, but actually an AI?
Yeah, good point. Now, if you think about the tool that I just mentioned, that's smart because you use AI, but it only works with what I inserted, in this case, with my verbal speech.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, my first instinct, and I haven't thought this through, I'm going to just do it now live while we talk. I would say that whatever comes out there, and I've seen some of my LinkedIn posts are from this tool. You can go through it and try to figure out which one. But I would say no, because in this case, I wouldn't, because it has my personality in it, even if it does apply AI methods or uses the model to amplify or change this, or like give me ideas for the hook for the first sentence or how to conclude my post. So in this case, if AI is implemented like this, I would say no. If I can truthfully say it's me. I find it find it important on other levels. I'll give you an example because I see this more and more often. I have online newspapers and other publishing houses. When I see local news here, I live in Frankfurt, Germany, and came across more and more often. There's, let's call it standard news. It just snowed here in Germany. It's the beginning of December 2023. Whenever you're listening, it was snowing. A tree fell on the tracks of a train, and the train can't go anymore. And so this was in the news ticker, and this news site turned this into a news report. And this was mainly done by AI because they just had the basic information. AI rewrote this. It's pretty straightforward. It's factual. There's no comment. There's no opinion behind it. And on the bottom it says this report or this information was enriched or also written by AI with the help of it. And I've been a journalist myself. I've worked in newspaper, TV, and radio already for years, and I know that these are important reports. But if I, as a reporter, don't have to write something like this all the time, but an AI helps with, it's okay. And then you label it, that's okay. But on other levels, it's a little different. And I find that if you think about email or newsletter, I could see that I would do this maybe on a corporate newsletter level where it's a bit more generic, more general. But I do get emails and newsletters from companies that they're sent on behalf of a staff member. Whether or not the person is real, I don't know. But there's one. Her name is Emily from a German bank, and it says Emily from. And I would find it sad and a little disappointing if this was purely AI generated and if it wasn't revealed. I would find it more honest. I would find it more honest if I read, okay, this is AI generated, just like what we're seeing with images right now. Big hit on LinkedIn, another trend. You see those 4 images on LinkedIn. Which one is AI? Which one is real? Try to figure it out. It's a nice guessing game. In this case, or in the future, I'd rather, like in certain contexts, as soon as it gets personal, I want to know. general news, general information. Fine, use the leverage. That's my thinking right now.
Mhm.
Ask me again in a year. Huh? You never know.
Yeah, I personally think that as AI can make mistakes and maybe at some point it even can hurt people by its
Yes.
use of words, then as a company you should mention maybe that you are using AI tools, and especially if you're going over to this totally automated system where everything's done by AI,
Yeah.
then you should mention it, because otherwise you might get some really angry calls from customers who don't like it.
Yeah, but again, like in the email field, if I think transactional mails, straightforward, like where it's really about timing, urgency in the e-commerce B2C world, some basic emails that really where I just want to have a certain information. I ordered something, it's been shipped or something like this. I think it's not as relevant. But as soon as it's talking about the company, its vision, its mission, what it stands for, um, I would hope that companies find more time to communicate what they stand for and what they are there for and what value they create for the world. If they can free up their time on other ends, that would be great. And in this case, I hope that humans find time to write this themselves, or at least, as the other example showed, like speak for yourself, and then you can use AI to enhance this. But it has to come from you or from me. And I think this is going to be a distinguishing factor in the future, on many levels.
I totally agree. So we have been talking about some really, really interesting topics. It has been wonderful time with you, but we need to start wrapping it up. So usually at the end, I ask the questions 3 most important things about their topic. So what are the 3 most important things that all email marketers should know before they start with AI?
Okay. Trying to go through. AI is a tool and can be leveraged to help with work that's currently annoying. It's one thing I would look at and try to use AI like this. So AI as a tool. The second thing is I believe that we just looking at the beginning of an age of AI. What we've been testing, what I described, how you don't have to generate text here and image there and copy paste and so on and so forth. I think this will be very cool to observe and keep an eye out on this, because the email marketing systems out there in this world will implement this in different ways. It's also going to show us how they think AI and how to deal with this also responsibly. I think that's the second thing. And the third thing is that I really hope that what I call the conductor, the architect, the designer, that we as humans find ourselves in a new privileged situation where we have time for tasks that usually we can't do on the scope, that are more fulfilling because we're busy putting puzzle pieces together. Number 3, that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. It was really interesting. I actually do love that you're saying that email marketer is a conductor or an architect, that you need to be in control of the tool. So you need to know what you're doing with that. And also what I loved what you said was that you should always tell the AI what not to do as well, because otherwise it can go to distances you don't want to go to.
That's a problem, by the way. I'm not a programmer per se, but I've heard this from that team as well. Problem is that when you put a prompt into AI, if you tell it, don't show me a pink elephant in a prompt, it tends to show you a pink elephant because it
Yeah.
doesn't really understand that this is a negative prompt. So I'm sure this will become smarter and smarter with the next models that are coming out. But right now we got to find that balance. So let's keep AI in check as well.
Exactly. So thank you very much, Tobias, for joining us, and we will link below the podcast all the links that the people need to know about you, about how the tool you are making, about this LinkedIn tool, and everything else, and let's get this AI tool out there and start using it as much as possible.
Yes, very
Thank you
happy.
very much.
Thank you so much for inviting me, for giving me the time. to talk about some crazy ideas.
Yeah, these cool and crazy ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and see you again with the listeners next time. Ciao.
Bye.